there is a themology that is emerging, ladies and gentlemen, as we conclude towards this evening, once all the numbers have now been digested. You can see in the case of Chhattisgarh on your screens, we have processed now through the better part of 9 agencies. And what the themology I'm seeing different this time around in all the exit polls is that they are being a lot more consistent. Now, you can argue consistency is a lot more conservative, but they are being a lot more consistent. In the past, exit polls really vary from agency to agency, one predicting a sweep on this side, other predicting a sweep on the other side. So, Chhattisgarh, for example, most of the exit polls are giving a slight advantage to the Congress in a close fight. Now, the BJP can argue that a close fight is nonetheless an improvement. The Congress can argue in a state that can flip things around full 360, a full 180. In this case, a win is a win. In Rajasthan, it's the opposite. It's a close fight. Very consistently, most of the exit polls are predicting a win for the BJP. In Madhya Pradesh, in a close fight, the exit polls are predicting advantage BJP once again. And the big twist is happening in Telangana, where if you are in the BRS, if you are K. Chandrasekhar Rao, you are a bit worried at this point of time. Of course, you can hope that all of this is just speculation and something completely different happens on the 3rd of December, because the polls have just closed today, remember. But the BRS 60, the halfway mark, the average of the exit polls is only predicting 45, which means the BRS doesn't form a government. It's a hung house, which means it's the Congress government potentially in Telangana as per as the average of those polls, which is a big deal if you're sitting in the Congress. The BJP hopefully looking to improve its tally, not really in the context of government formation over there. We don't know how the poll maths is going to work out very, very shortly. Vinita Hariharan of the BJP with us, Lavanya Balal of the Congress with us, Shekhar Vijayan and Deshratan Nigam still with us on this telecast. I'm expecting to get CP Joshi to join us very, very shortly as well. Deshratan ji, now that we've digested all the numbers, we don't know what's going to happen. But now, what is the momentum? What is, if this holds or nearabouts, what's the message from the people of the 5 states of India? What are they telling the BJP? What are they telling the Congress?
See, 2 things are quite clear out this time from the exit polls. Rajasthan and MP are probably going to the BJP. And Chhattisgarh to the Congress from the exit polls. However, the poll percentage difference between the 2 set of parties is only 1%. I have taken one example only.
Yeah.
And that 1%, is something, and we have seen in Madhya Pradesh earlier, where BJP had a higher poll percentage of 0.5% and they got lesser seats.
Yes.
So those kinds of, risks.
No, it was very close in Himachal also. But,
yes.
Even at the national level, the Deshratan Nigam, 5% is the difference between 50 seats and 250 seats. So it becomes huge over a larger scheme. So what is the perception? Are the voters saying that the national level election is now a completely different property, completely different entity? Okay.
Absolutely.
And at the state level, we are willing to comprehend other people other than the BJP.
See, absolutely. I think the voters are voting in a very different manner in the assembly election, the Lok Sabha elections. And they want to extract the maximum from the state government and as well as from the central government. This is a kind of competitive politics which is taking place, which has been started by the voters. It's not the political parties. In order to win the election, there is a pressure from the voters. They say we want the best of both the worlds. And this is what exactly is happening. And Telangana also, the vote percentage almost is similar of both the parties. But however, the inclination is towards the Congress. So we got to keep the risk in mind, given the error margin of the.
We've been doing this long enough, sir. It's in the end, it's speculative. The error margins themselves are speculative.
So far as these, exit polls are concerned, so it's BJP is certainly going to improve Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh also, and Rajasthan they are coming.
Okay,
so it is
all right. But
I'm
trying to take out a themology. We don't know how it goes, but clearly some lessons are being learned over here, and one lesson is pretty clear. That in a Rahul Gandhi versus Narendra Modi fight, every time has been Narendra Modi on top.
Yes.
But once the Congress has come out and let DK Shiv Kumar and Siddaramaiah handle the front in Karnataka, let the local leaders handle the front in Himachal, including Veerbhadra's widow, his son, who are not in government at this point of time, but they've just had enough to form a government. And in politics, forming the government matters. You can form a government by 1 seat or 50 seats. Forming the government matters. Okay, let me break this down before I come into Shekhar and get our political guests back into this conversation. Let's open up Mizoram, and this is a tally from where the existing seat positions are to versus what the exit polls say. So the Mizoram exit polls are predicting on average a 10-seat fall for the MNF, which would be trouble for the MNF. That doesn't translate necessarily to the BJP. It mostly translates to this formulation, which is the ZPM. Whether they come together, form a government, or still hate each other, that's yet to be opened. Chhattisgarh, as things stand, the Congress loses 18 as per the exit polls. The BJP gains 23, but the Congress still passed the majority mark. When it comes to Telangana, the BJP perhaps on average gains 5. Remember, it only has 1. The Congress gains 43 to the expense of BRS losing 43. That's a hung house, ladies and gentlemen, or very near a hung house, and potentially the Congress single largest party, or indeed forming the government by itself, and the BJP improving its performance, KCR potentially wiped out. We don't know, but at this point of time, that's what the exit poll says. In Rajasthan, the BJP gains 30, 34. The Congress loses 21. The others lose a little bit, 10, 14 seats as well. And in this scenario, the BJP is past the halfway mark of 100 and they form the government. In Madhya Pradesh, the BJP gaining 18. Now remember, last time around, the BJP was the second largest party, and then a change happened in which they got the extra MLAs after Jyotiraditya Scindia shifted sides. So that brought them to the past the halfway mark figure. So the gaining of 18 is less when they look at the current figure. The Congress loses 15, and in this case, the exit polls are predicting advantage BJP to a large enough extent as to form the government and be past the 116 halfway mark. When it comes to Rajasthan here's the breakup that we've been showing you, and we'll continue to show you on your screen. Shekhar Vijayan, now that we've been doing this for a couple of hours, we have pretty much all the numbers out there. They've all been digested. They are far more consistent, more in tune. Now, I don't know whether all the pollsters were concluding the same results, or they were all sitting and having chai together and figuring out what they're doing, or they were all being conservative, but they are more consistent than perhaps I've ever seen them. They are all predicting close contests, but is it in keeping with what your best guess is?
So, Rishabh, I think I learned a new term today, which is themology, which you used today. And, if you're talking about numbers, I think this is a very, very critical juncture for 2024 elections. I believe these 5 state elections, the results is like a World Cup semi-final, and the final is going to happen obviously in 2024. Now, if you look at the numbers, the numbers are going to keep changing. We have seen it's going to be a very, very close contest between all the 3 parties, be it Congress, be it BJP, be it BRS. And like I mentioned earlier, in Telangana, it's going to be really close. I also believe people have voted for change. People are voting for development. People are voting for anti-incumbency. The voters are also, our average voters right now are very evolved. They know what problems are facing in the constituency. They're all, voting for a society which is very developed, which has no corruption. And I think the best example here would be in Karnataka. We spoke about Karnataka. Karnataka Congress has formed a government here. I think that's opened the floodgates for Congress in the southern part of India. And now, if all goes well in Telangana, that might also happen. But on a larger note, I believe this 5 state elections is very, very critical. It's very critical because perception is all that matters. We are talking about these 5 states, the results. Everybody's going to be watching these numbers, not just in India. I think abroad also people are going to be watching these numbers because these numbers are very critical for the 2024 elections.
Okay,
I know these numbers will change.
Okay, are they critical? Because if it is critical, then the BJP is being told that in your bastion states, which in order to deliver the sweeping mandate you got in 2019, where you'll be expecting to win cent%, nearly every single seat. So the BJP is being told that this is very close, you're in trouble. But on the other hand, if the national election is a completely different kettle of fish, then it doesn't matter. Then this is a different battle zone, and that's a different battle zone. Which is it?
Yes, Rishabh. But like you mentioned earlier, I think the central and state, the way we vote is very different. We're voting for personalities at the central level. At the state level, it's more to do with the constituencies and everything around it. But I also believe there is a perception. You want to, when you're a party, you want to win. Now, if BJP wins from here or does not win handsomely, it also gives them time to work on what's required for them to win the general elections. But the point of the matter here is it won't be easy for them. They won't win with an absolute majority in 2024. We're talking about something which is 6 months in advance. Right now, these elections are very critical for them because you want to start on a winning note. You want to show that you're winning and knowing how they are, knowing how the Prime Minister really
not
works
necessarily.
really hard.
You can completely accept that at a state level, the voter. I'll give you Delhi example. Okay, Delhi at the state level, the Aam Aadmi Party doesn't win. It sweeps. It takes 67 out of 70 seats. Okay. Then when the Lok Sabha election comes on, they don't win a single Lok Sabha seat. 7 out of 7 for the BJP. But again, when a municipal election comes, the Aam Aadmi Party wins. So there is a clear distinction that some voters somewhere. Now, whether that Delhi is a microcosm, obviously, but don't discount it. That's 7-8 million voters pointing you in a direction. Vinita Hariharan joining us. Ma'am, is it, I'll save congratulations / commiserations for 3 days later. But is it a bit uncomfortably close that you would have hoped that, the factors in your favor would put you well ahead?
No, in fact, I think I would like to turn the narrative around and say that it's quite optimistic because you've said almost all the 5 states favoring BJP with neck to neck in Chhattisgarh as per exit polls. So exit polls or no exit polls, I think, clearly the voter is discerning enough today and they've seen how the, at the cost of being repetitive and sounding, cliched, but it is the efficacy of the programs on the ground, the outreach, the kind of stability, the kind of, robustness with which we've kind of governed the country the last 10 years is for all to see. And the kind of the freebies and all of those promises, the false promises that the Congress government has been giving out in Karnataka and then falling terribly out of favor. If for 6 months down the line, they don't have money in their coffers, their budgets are mismanaged. Every other state government, you see the budgets are mismanaged and it's they're always pointing out to the center for doles at the end of the
Let's not discuss the Madhya Pradesh, loans to the exchequer at this point of time. They're very large, as you and I well know, and everybody gives away freebies. So let me turn this into a question. It was a very, very close fight. I mean, it came down to a few hundred votes per constituency in Himachal, and you took that as solace. In Karnataka, you're going through a leadership change. A very, very tall leader in Karnataka had just ended his political career. Now, when it comes to these 3 states, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, and Chhattisgarh, would you need a win here to be confident of sweeping them again in 2024, or does it not matter? Is it completely different kettle of fish?
No, the first is that we are winning. And the second is that whether we need it or not, 2024, we are definitely sweeping the country again. And we will have Modi ji coming back again in 2024 with a thumping victory. There's no doubt about that. So with or without these victories, but having said that, we are anyway winning Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh. I would definitely say that we're also making a dent in Telangana. That's a big achievement. I mean, that's a turnaround of sorts. So that itself speaks for what the voters were voting for. It's voting for development, is voting for progress, is voting for stability in the country. And so I think that's clearly deservable.
Okay, couple of thoughts, a couple of more thoughts, Vinita ji. Is the Congress getting a strategy right? That when they let their local leadership, whether it's a DK Shiv Kumar or a Siddaramaiah or a Kamal Nath or Digvijay or, the family members of the late Veerbhadra Singh, Vikramaditya and others, or in the case of Chhattisgarh, Baghel, T.S. Singh Deo, when the local leadership takes the lead, plans the election, becomes the front, and not Rahul and Priyanka, that undercuts your biggest advantage, which is Narendra Modi. Are they getting that strategy right, which is now affecting your results at the state level?
Absolutely not, because their strategy, if their local leadership also is up in arms against each other, and you have conflicting leaderships between Sachin Pilot and Gehlot, we've seen T.O. Singh and Baghel in arms against each other. So there is no consistency, there is no kind of solidarity or camaraderie in the leadership at the local level as well. So whatever they're bringing up is for them to bring up. But then there is, you see, nepotism where you have Kamal Nath's son, Nakul Nath, also being fielded. So it's all about nepotism. It's all about family-run politics. There's no kind of solid meritocratic leadership that's emerging on the ground as far as the Congress is concerned. And as far as the BJP is concerned, we've set our narrative very straight and very transparent for all to see. That is, if we have a central leadership under Modi ji, and then we have local leaderships who carry forward the narrative of the center towards the states in the context of the regional, needs and wants of and aspirations of the local constituencies. Is how the BJP functions, how the National Democratic Alliance is functioning.
Okay, let me get Lavanya ji for a thought on this now. Lavanya ji, let me ask a question, because everybody will dispute the exit polls, but they are more consistent this time around. And they're predicting close contests. Regardless of win and loss, as long as it's a close contest, would you be satisfied that you've done enough?
First of all, good evening. First of all, I do not agree with some of the state poll numbers, but that's okay. I mean, it's something that we can always debate about. But there is a difference in the way the Congress party has started to handle elections, manage elections, I would say. We have seen it in the last three state elections. Of course, Gujarat, we failed. But Karnataka, we kind of got it right. And now, if you look at the 5 states that have just polled, you can see the clear difference in the way we have managed our elections. And I would like to disagree with you when it comes to Priyanka ji and Rahul ji. In Karnataka, we have 224 constituencies, and between Karge ji, our party president, Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi, they toured a total of 180 constituencies, 60 constituencies between, per leader, that is. So we have seen amazing success in those constituencies as well. The same formula has been followed this time as well in all 5 states. So we are very confident of winning these 5 states this time.
Okay.
In Mizoram, we are going to be the single largest party. I wouldn't say we would have enough members to form the government, but it's going to be single largest party in Telangana. Sorry, in Mizoram.
What were takeaways? You mentioned, it's good of you to defend your party leader. Obviously, you should. But would you credit the local leadership that a D.K. Shivkumar, a Siddaramaiah, or a Vikramaditya, or a Kamal Nath, or a Digvijay Singh, or a Gehlot, or a T.S. Singhdeo, that they have helped the party come back in important states, or at least given them a strong performance in important states?
Well, see, here is something that has happened in India in the last 10 years. There's always been an attempt to make Indian elections look like an American presidential election, that is pitting the prime minister against one leader of other party, which has never been the case with Congress. Congress always had its state leaders working hard for the elections, during the elections, along with our national leaders. But unfortunately, I don't know, somewhere somebody seems to have forgotten that this has been the case always with Congress party. Be it Siddaramaiah ji, D.K. Shivkumar ji, Revant Reddy, Bhatti Vikramarka, Gehlot ji, Sachin Pilot, or Digvijay ji and Kamal Nath ji in Madhya Pradesh. It's always the state leaders who lead the elections with these national leaders supporting them.
Okay, so it's not a new strategy, but whatever it is, it's leading to not so bad and good news. So then the obvious next question, ma'am, is that if these kind of results hold, where even if it's a defeat, it's a strong showing, does this translate? Because in Gujarat, for example, we saw the entry of the Aam Aadmi Party. Fine, the BJP won, but your performance in Gujarat was so much worse than last time. You gave the BJP a decent fight last time, but entered the Aam Aadmi Party and they decimated you. In these cases, the Aam Aadmi Party and others were not there. So is your biggest threat still the BJP, or are there other smaller parties that are a threat to you?
See, the threat is not just the BJP, but the BJP's B team as well. In Telangana, where I worked, if you look at it, the MIM and BRS party were hand in glove with the BJP. So, of course, the B teams of the BJP also eat into the vote share. So, of course, that is also an issue for us. It's not just the BJP. There are multiple other parties in every state that will eat into the vote share, which we also take into consideration.
Okay, ma'am, it was 4 or 5% vote share difference in the last election, and that made a difference of more than 200 seats when it came to the Lok Sabha numbers. Are you now hoping on mathematics? Mathematics means that, okay, Karnataka will do a little bit better. Maybe Himachal will do a little bit better. Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh will do a little bit better. And that helps us in 2024. Or is it a completely different gambit when it comes to a national campaign and a Narendra Modi who is a much more difficult competitor to beat?
See, this time around, this is the third election that the Prime Minister will be the face of the BJP. as a national face for the BJP. But this time around, if you look at it, the pulse of the nation is very different. They are not buying the same old narrative that the BJP is selling them from the last 10 years. You can clearly make out the pulse is changing. So this time around, I think the BJP also needs to change its narrative if they want to form a government in central also. But I see the India alliance making a very good lead in 2024 elections.
All right. Okay. Like I said, it could be, or it could be completely different, and the BJP sweeps everything at the center after having seemed to have had close contests at the state. Who knows? Anything can happen. Let me get a quick thought in from Huda Zariwala joining us on the broadcast. Huda ji, what is your best guess? The exit polls this time being a lot more closer, a lot more consistent. They're talking about close contests. In a couple, they're giving the BJP an advantage. In a couple, they're giving the Congress an advantage. Does that seem to be a fair picture in your assessment?
Well, good evening. First off, congratulations to everybody who contested and put up a really, really strong fight in Telangana. This was definitely not an easy election, and obviously being one of the few last states just before the run-up to the 2024 general election, this certainly was not as an easy task, so to say. But that being said, this time we did see a very strong presence of the Congress around, knowing that this is a state that does support the KCR and people around him. His daughter obviously was extremely sort of vociferous and very vocal about the corruption and everything happening around either by the BJP or the Congress or any of that. But that being said, this particular election has also seen some very typical election tactics, like the whole deep fake video thing, one party sort of throwing stones at the other. I mean, which is obviously seen in every other state, but Telangana was obviously no different. The BJP obviously had their big guns in. So, it will be very interesting to see who makes it to the end, but a very strong and pertinent point that you mentioned this time around was the likes of Aam Aadmi Party was not there. So that's... obviously, AIM was there, but then, because the contest was essentially, more about the, largely the KCR's party and the Congress party. I mean, it was the PRS and Congress were vetted against each other. BJP may have made a strong presence, but that being said, it was no easy feat by any chance.
Okay, so it often for people watching the broadcast, bottom lines are great. Okay. So the bottom line takeaway from exit poll days, they're a lot closer, they're not spread apart, they're not in extremes, they're all predicting close contests, they're giving the BJP and Congress advantage in some cases. We don't know how this goes, but the big upset seems to be in Telangana and not anywhere else. Stay with me, CP Joshi, joining us on the broadcast. CP Joshi ji, appreciate your time. Joshi ji, let's talk about the issues. In Rajasthan, where you've been based out of, this entire red diary, the लाल डायरी का मुद्दा, do you really think कि इससे लाल डायरी का मुद्दा पे impact पड़ा है? ये X factor हो सकता है that delivered the difference between victory and defeat? जोशी जी,
लाल डायरी का अभियान कांग्रेस के लोगों ने ही चलाया. जिस लाल डायरी में कांग्रेस के काले चिट्ठे हैं, जिस लाल डायरी में किस प्रकार से इनके मंत्री ने इस सरकार को, मुख्यमंत्री जी को बचाने के लिए कितनी मंजिल कूद के वो लाल डायरी लेकर गए थे. वो मुख्यमंत्री जी कहते रहे कि हमारा इस लाल डायरी से कोई लेना देना नहीं, और उन्हीं के खास सीपे सालार आरटीडीसी के चेयरमैन कहते रहे कि हाँ मेरे यहाँ से लाल डायरी लेकर गए. तो पहला झूठ तो जनता के सामने उसी दिन आ गया. फिर उसमें जिस प्रकार से 5 वर्षों में राजस्थान को लूटने की एक पटकथा लिखी गई है कि एक एक कब कहाँ क्या किया, कैसे इन्होंने दिल्ली दरबार को कांग्रेस चलाने के लिए व्यवस्था की गई, कैसे यहाँ माइनिंग घोटाले हुए, कैसे यहाँ पद बांटे गए, कैसे यहाँ बोर्ड बांटे गए, वो सारा काला चिट्ठा उस लाल डायरी में है. तो निश्चित रूप से ये सारे जो काले चिट्ठे हैं लाल डायरी के, राजस्थान की जनता के मन मस्तिष्क पे था कि जिन लोगों ने ईमानदारी से काम करने का संकल्प लिया, और उन्होंने 5 वर्ष तक राजस्थान की जनता को, गरीब जनता को, उनको खून पसीने की कमाई जो राजस्थान के विकास में लगनी चाहिए थी, वो पैसा कहीं कहीं भ्रष्ट नेताओं के जेब में
जोशी जी
गया है।
जो
तो उसका सबक जनता ने
जोशी जी, जो
25
मोदी
तारीख को
सरकार की सारी स्कीमें हैं, आवास योजना, हर घर नल, हमने देखा है उज्ज्वला, फिर हमने देखा है आयुष्मान भारत, फिर आपकी डायरेक्ट बेनिफिट, इसका ट्रांसलेशन वोटिंग पे हो रहा है स्टेट लेवल पे? ये लोग मान के चल रहे हैं कि हमारा हक है, या उनकी दुआएं मोदी जी के पास जा रही हैं, इसका मतलब वो बीजेपी वोट में कन्वर्ट हो रही हैं?
आप देखिए कि लोग अंतर समझ रहे हैं। 60 वर्ष बनाम 9.5 वर्ष, जो काम 60 वर्ष में नहीं हो पाया उससे ज़्यादा काम पिछले 9.5 वर्षों में हुआ है। ये मोदी जी ने, कांग्रेस पार्टी सिर्फ नारे और वादे दिए, काम नहीं किया। अंतर जनता ने देखा है कि आखिर क्या कारण, जो काम 60 वर्ष में नहीं हो पाए वो मोदी जी ने 9.5 वर्ष में कर लिए। चाहे गरीब का आवास हो, चाहे शौचालय हो, जनधन का खाता हो, उज्ज्वला का कनेक्शन हो, बिजली का कनेक्शन हो, आयुष्मान कार्ड हो, ऐसी अनेक योजनाएं जो 60 वर्ष से ज़्यादा काम 9.5 वर्ष में हो गया। इससे जनता के मन में स्पष्ट मत था कि हमने मोदी जी के साथ जाना है, हमने भारतीय जनता पार्टी के साथ जाना है।
गहलोत जी के बारे में क्या? क्योंकि प्रधानमंत्री ने इस पे बोला था, आप लोगों ने बोला है कि जो जी सचिन पायलट के साथ सही नहीं हुआ, राजेश पायलट के साथ भी गहलोत जी ने सही नहीं किया था इतिहास में, तो कांग्रेस पार्टी ने गहलोत जी को फ्रंट एंड सेंटर रखे। डिड इट हेल्प यू?
देखिए, 2 पक्ष है। अशोक गहलोत जी ने अपना ब्रांड, अपना चेहरा सामने लेकर आए। दिल्ली नहीं चाहती थी कि उनका चेहरा सामने, अगर वो तो कह रहे थे मैं ही योग्य हूँ, बाकी सब नकारा निकम्मा है, लेकिन दिल्ली के लोग उनको नकारा मान रहे थे, उनका चेहरा नहीं देखना चाह रहे थे। तो कहीं न कहीं अंतर्द्वंद दिल्ली और जयपुर के बीच में था, और इसीलिए कभी किसका फोटो लगाते थे, कभी किसका फोटो लगाते थे, चुनाव के दिनों में और कोई फोटो लगाने लगे। तो ये इनका अंतर्द्वंद कांग्रेस को रसातल में भेजने का एक बड़ा कारण बनेगा।
तो मोदी जी का हमने देखा कि लास्ट दौरान में भी उनकी कैंपेनिंग बढ़ी थी वहाँ पर। आपके हिसाब से स्टेट लेवल इलेक्शन में जब प्रधानमंत्री स्वयं कैंपेन करने आते हैं बीजेपी के तरफ से, उससे अभी भी इम्पैक्ट पड़ रहा है? तो कैसे पड़ रहा है?
देखिए, मोदी जी देश के गरीब हो, दलित हो, आदिवासी हो, महिला हो, युवा हो, किसान हो, हर वर्ग के अटूट आस्था का प्रतीक है, विश्वास का प्रतीक है। और मैंने भी अपने जीवन में ऐसा नेता नहीं देखा जिनके प्रति ऐसी अटूट आस्था लोगों की हो, अटूट विश्वास हो। और उसके पीछे कारण है, उन्होंने जो कहा वो करके दिखाया और असंभव को भी संभव किया।
तो व्हाट स्टेट लेवल पे क्या आपने जो प्रॉमिस किया है, वादे किए हैं, वो कैसे आप निभाएंगे अगर आपको मौका मिलता है 3 दिन बाद?
निश्चित रूप से भारतीय जनता पार्टी कभी झूठे वादे नहीं कर सकते। जो कहा वो करके दिखाया, और हमने अभी हमारे संकल्प पत्र में स्पष्ट कहा है कि ऐसा नहीं कि वोट लेने के लिए कुछ ऐसे वादे कर दिए जो हमने कर नहीं सकते। जो हम लोग एग्जामिन करके जो जनता को दे सकते हैं, जो काम कर सकते हैं, वही हमने संकल्प पत्र में लिए हैं। और निश्चित रूप से जो कहा है वो भारतीय जनता पार्टी
जोशी जी, राहुल गांधी और प्रियंका गांधी ने भी अब कैंपेनिंग करी है, राजस्थान में नहीं हर स्टेट में करी है। क्या इसका इम्पैक्ट भी मिलता है कांग्रेस को? क्योंकि आंकड़े कह रहे हैं परहैप्स कि ये नज़दीकी लड़ाई है। क्या इसका भी इम्पैक्ट पड़ा हो?
देखिए, पहले तो राहुल गांधी आना नहीं चाहते थे, फिर अंतिम दिनों में 1-2 सभाओं में दबाव लगाकर बुलाया गया कि कांग्रेस का जो है अंतर्द्वंद वो जनता के सामने आएगा। तो ये निश्चित रूप से कांग्रेस पार्टी के इन लोगों को विश्वास नहीं है, क्योंकि राहुल गांधी जी ने कभी जनता का धरातल उनको नहीं पता, गरीब का दर्द नहीं पता, गांव के लोगों का दर्द नहीं पता, महिला का दर्द नहीं पता, युवाओं का दर्द नहीं पता, किसान का दर्द नहीं पता। तो जिनको देश के और प्रदेश की ज़मीनी हकीकत नहीं पता, जिनको संस्कार और संस्कृति के बारे में नहीं पता, जिनको सनातन के बारे में नहीं पता, वो उनको जनता के ऊपर।
जोशी जी, एक आखिरी सवाल करूंगा आपको छोड़ने से पहले। अगर जीत होती है भारतीय जनता पार्टी को, तो मुख्यमंत्री कौन बनेगा?
देखिए, बहुमत निश्चित रूप से 135 प्लस से भाजपा की सरकार बन रही है और पार्लियामेंट्री बोर्ड जो तय करेगा वो निश्चित रूप से प्रदेश
All right, you've given me the diplomatic answer. CP Joshi there joining us, BJP MP on the broadcast. Let me quickly get Deshradhan Nigam. Deshradhan Nigam, so now, we have now 3 days to digest until we get the final results, and then we'll have plenty of time. The politician will have plenty of time to take them forward. There are no more major elections between now and the Lok Sabha polls.
Absolutely.
Would it be fair to say that if you're in the Congress ranks, you're really thinking, we have some momentum now. 2024 is going to look a lot different than 2019.
Well, Rishabh, in fact, this was the similar situation when Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh went to polls before 2019 elections. So that momentum was never there for the Congress in the Lok Sabha elections.
You made a very good point, because for people, just to recall, the Congress won those elections.
Yes.
Okay, and they were in power, in government.
And
but then something completely different happened.
Yes,
and Chhattisgarh. And something
Chhattisgarh as
completely
well.
different happened in the Lok Sabha polls.
So they are voters are voting differently in both the elections. So this cannot be a momentum or any kind of a signal for the general elections. Does
the Congress local leadership at least get some credit?
It
and
should.
do you give some credit to the Gandhis that they are willing to let the local leaders be the front and center? They haven't been they have rallied, but they haven't made themselves the campaign.
Yes, something they probably have realized now, that they are not very effective in the elections, and let their local leadership establish themselves. There is also a weakness so far as BJP is concerned when the local elections take place. Their local leadership seems to be in array. Sometimes there is no face out there. The senior leaders are almost retiring, or they have been there for a very, very long time, not willing to move towards the center. It has happened in Rajasthan, it has happened in Madhya Pradesh. So they need to have some very strong local leadership along with Prime Minister
Which begs the next question. Shekhar, what then is a yogi getting right in UP? Whereas a local leader, he is front and center, and he's banging on, and everything that is thrown his way, he sweeps local elections, super local elections, he is sweeping. Now, yes, when it came to Shivraj, he's contesting for the 5th term as Chief Minister. So it's a stretch. But what is Yogi getting right that they have not been able to replicate in other places?
I think development, about focus on change, focus on consistency. I think that's exactly what Mr. Yogi is doing in UP, and it could be a case study for other states too. Whether you like him or not, the point is he's been very successful, and he's been very, very clear. I think he runs a state like a businessman, like a startup. He is very clear in terms of the crime rate, in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of the development of the state, which nobody can take it away from him. I think that's something which can work for other states too. And he is very clear. If you look at the way he presents himself, he's very clear, very confident, very forthright, and that should work. I think it could be a case study for other states.
Okay, Huda Zariwala, Ms. Nigam, make your interjection.
I think one of the important points which goes in favor of Mr. Yogi is the no-nonsense approach towards law and order, which is very clear towards rioters or those who are trying to, doing lynching. He's taken a very consistent stand. We will not spare you. And that is what people say. Earlier, when the earlier governments were there, the girls or the ladies could not move out in the night. Today, that's not the case.
Okay, so there is a translation. So, it cuts both ways. So, the BJP does have a very strong local leader. They have hammered home multiple government after government, regardless of whether Narendra Modi has been Chief Minister or not, because he's been PM for the past 10 years in Gujarat. So there is some factor, but a very interesting bifurcation, dissection seems to be happening. Huda Zariwala, the factor of the Congress still being able to put up a fight after not only defeats, but the lowest ever record performances, not once but twice at the national level. How is it disconnected? How can a Congress bid have done so badly, being almost wiped out, Rahul Gandhi losing his home bastion, having to win from Kerala for gosh sake? How does that party still hang in there and at the state level do enough to be a serious contender? Huda ji.
Well, Congress has been an age-old, time and tested. Congress has been obviously a time and tested age-old party. I mean, they may have lost significantly in the general elections, but let us not forget that this is a party that has delivered in the past. And now with the all energized, renewed Rahul Gandhi ji, doing the Padyatra and all of that. I mean, I am by no means a spokesperson for the Congress, but then you have to admit that Rahul ji has actually managed to create this rapport with people, with the with the Janta in general. People want to associate with him. People want to listen to him. He has spoken about the rights of the Kisan, of women, of everybody. Basically the downtrodden of any kind. With all due respect. But that being said, this is also a party that has, that has been obviously in the country since time immemorial.
Yeah,
so
but time,
it is
yeah,
not
well,
a party
time, well,
that can be just done away with.
The other old party is the left, and that's not doing very well. So let's, the things can change.
But let us.
Yeah, things can change. Okay, things can change. Let me get Vinita Hariharan on the BJP back. Okay, Vinita ji, in a very real sense, are you going to be forced to relook at your 2024 calculations? Because the numbers are difficult, ma'am. The reason they are difficult is because it is demanding cent per cent performance. All seats in Delhi, almost all seats in UP, all seats in Gujarat, all seats in Haryana, almost all the seats in Madhya Pradesh. It's a very demanding task to repeat what you did last time around. So does it change your calculations? What different can you do other than rely simply on Narendra Modi delivering the people's vote?
No, as I said, it's not a strategy that we're going to work out for the next 6 months only. It's been something that, we've been doing for the last 10 years. It's the result of those programs and whatever we've implemented on the ground that's going to be translated in 2024. And definitely it's a culmination of a huge, a long span of effort that we've taken the country from fragile 5 to the top 5. And so that story is for the globe to see, for the nation to see, and for everybody else in the country to see, from the poorest of the poor to the richest of the rich, have seen the Modi government programs and the Modi's, implementation, the leadership of the BJP, the organizational robustness of the BJP, the cadre-based party that it is, the nation-building focus that it has. It doesn't change from issue to issue and from topic to topic, and it is completely focused, and the train is going on the track, and the country is completely fortified in terms of the security measures, in terms of the developmental measures, in terms of everything else. 360
okay, so what is allowing some of these parties to still hang around? The Congress is more than hanging around. Mamata Banerjee hung around reasonably well in Bengal under, of course, complicated and combative circumstances. But why are still some people not convinced, at least at the state level?
Yeah, so just as I said, it's about the the story that you narrate during the elections, when the Congress goes around with a whole a bag full of freebies to the people and to the public, and so they
with all due respect, ma'am,
I'll come to you to respond immediately. Let her finish.
After 6 months, you're not even able to deliver those promises. So it's a promise before they even see what is there in the coffer, and then they declare the coffers empty when it comes to actually giving away the subsidies or the freebies that they promised. For example, the Gehlot government itself, about the farm loan waivers, he was not able to do that to even 5% of the people. So it's about the territory on the ground. But if you look at Madhya Pradesh, the kind of budget enhancement, 2,300 crores what the Congress stopped at when we stopped.
I think the BJP is getting more than sufficient.
I think BJP, what do you mean more than sufficient time?
I'm sorry.
Oh gosh, ma'am, you're sitting on NewsX, please, ma'am. We don't talk over each other. I'm going to come to you just next. Let her finish. Finish your thought, ma'am.
So what I'm saying is, we cannot refute statistics, we cannot refute numbers, we cannot refute the story that's we're witnessing in front of our eyes, the country growing.
Yeah, but the question, Vinita Hariharan, is then, does that statistics, when somebody gets a house and when they get a Ujjwala, do they automatically become BJP voters? That's an important question. There's no denying BJP is the party to beat. It's the party to beat in the states. It's the party to beat in the center. But what's different? Let me get the Congress perspective.
Sorry, okay. I just want to mention there when you talked about Ujjwala, because
I would like to respond.
There are plenty of schemes. So let's get Lavanya in. Lavanya, so let me ask you a question. 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago, a defeat is a defeat. It happens in politics. But 10 years ago was a shock to the system. The figures that came out of the Lok Sabha was a shock, never before record low. Then nobody thought it could be repeated, but it happened again in 2019 and even worse. So now that you had 10 years to digest it and and work it, that's a decade. What's it going to be different this time around? What's the formula that's going to be different this time around?
There are a lot of formulas that are going to be different. First of all, we speak the truth. We don't need to keep lying like the BJP. When the BJP keeps talking about the freebies given by the Congress, they tend to forget Ladla Behna in Madhya Pradesh. They tend to forget that when the BJP announces promises, it is called welfare schemes, but any other party in India, when it announces the welfare schemes, it is called as freebies by the BJP. Let me be very clear. The Indian voters are not fools, and the way the BJP treats them or the way BJP addresses them is like they do not understand what is going on in this country. The voters are very intelligent and the voters are very clear what is it they want this time around. They wanted a change in 2014 and they have seen the last 10 years what has happened in India, the division between the rich and the poor and the religious bigotry that has happened in India is all evident for the whole world to see.
Do you think India is now a bigoted nation?
When the BJP talks about the freebies that every other party gives, they tend to forget that India is a welfare state. India was founded as a welfare state, and India continues to be a welfare state.
Well, the BJP is giving 6,000 rupees direct transfer to farmers. Many people can easily argue it's a freebie. I completely understand that cuts both ways.
Absolutely.
But do you think India has become India today is a bigoted nation, divided nation?
India today is a nation which is very hurt. That's what I would like to say. India is a nation that needs a lot of healing. India is a nation that needs to progress and look forward, not look backwards, not look at others, that needs to look inwards and needs to progress.
Okay, so what's
India
the better strategy?
India is a nation that needs healing.
Okay, so what's the better strategy, way forward that you are going to be presenting over the next few months?
We are only going to talk about welfare schemes. We are only going to talk about the development schemes that we have planned for the nation. We are not going to talk about anything else. We do not need to drag religion or any other kind of sentiments to win the elections. We are very clear about that.
Okay, well, last time around, ma'am, it was, Rafale and all the other things. Have you shorn off that kind of agenda because it doesn't work?
Absolutely not. It is our duty as a political party to ensure people are aware of the scams that are happening. Look at what is happening in Karnataka.
So are you still convinced Rafale was a scam?
Absolutely. Now, there are multiple other scams also. It's not just the Rafale. There are multiple other things that are going on. And we will speak about it because it is our duty. We are duty bound to speak about it.
Okay, all right. So let me get Deshrata Nigam. Deshrata Nigam, just look at there's another kind of mathematics. The mathematics tells you that 80 crore people for the past 3 years have been receiving ration, that there are farmers who have been consistently receiving 6,000 rupees a year directly into their bank accounts, that there are near 40 crore people who got Jan Dhan accounts. You had a near % saturation of Awas Yojana in several states. You've had so many lives that have been touched. I think the figure is now nearer to 7-8 crores in terms of Ujjwala. So if you look at the BJP, you can say that almost in every home and hearth in the entire country, we've contributed something. Now, does that something, whether it's a home, whether it's a cylinder, whether it's a tap, it's an internet connection, whether it's a loan, whether it is a Swanidhi scheme for Rediwalas, does that something translate into a vote for the BJP?
Certainly, yes, and this is what exactly happened in 29 when they repeated themselves. And Mudra Yojana, not to forget, which is a game changer, which self-employs people, where earlier people were looking for jobs. Now they've started, their own businesses, small businesses, and they don't want to. And most of them were migrant workers, and they're not even thinking of going back to the respective jobs from where they came. So Mudra, probably it is undermined. Mudra Yojana is one scheme which is probably undermined by people. And digitalization, which removes the middleman from the people and reduced corruption to almost zero. And therefore, these are the two things which people realize, that various schemes and the participation of women in these schemes, they're the beneficiaries, about 60 to 70%. And these schemes are targeted schemes. These are not freebies. Let me make a distinction between the two. Freebies is...
Well, you can argue that, but they're splitting hairs. Okay, so let me rephrase the question. The question then becomes, what more can any individual, let alone be Narendra Modi, what more could have any individual done in 10 years? Look at the BJP's long-standing promises. On Ram Mandir, it will be done and delivered come January. When it came to special status of Kashmir, done and delivered. CAA not done and delivered, but some movement has happened there. I believe a bill is being drafted. So of the three major long-standing, decades-long promises, two are done and delivered, one in the works. When it comes to development scheme, cent% saturation in so many different areas. In terms of the larger economy, doing okay. In terms of overall inflation, pretty much under control. In terms of international prestige, doing pretty okay. Ram Mandir, by the way, done and delivered without any sort of violence in this country whatsoever, which many people suspected to happen. Even in the initial stages when demonetization became complex, people were very patient. There were no riots in this country, even though it was a very highly complicated and potentially combative exercise. So other than the farm loans, the farm laws, which had to be recanted, what more could Narendra Modi have done? Is there anything left in the last 5 months?
I'm sure. See, nobody can say that everything has been done. A lot has been done, and still a lot is to be done, especially when you have a huge state with huge population. And more so, we have gone through COVID. The speed and scale got dented during that period. However, the government utilized that time to build up public infrastructure during that point of time, and with a huge amount of speed and scale. That one advantage they took out of it. And they have to continuously further improve the quality of life. And the inflation that people talk about, look at the inflation in Europe, look at the inflation in other countries. We have still managed to be hovering around 4.5 to 6, 7%. And that is the advantage that we have. And nobody realizes the fact that everybody talks in vacuum about inflation. The world is saying that India is the only bright spot in the world so far as
the latest GDP figures have just come out today. Okay, so India is doing well. Everybody wants India to do well. Okay, so then Shekhar Vijayan, my obvious question is, if there is no real thing that you can look back and say that this could have been done better, higher, faster, as an individual, as a government, this is what we could do. What is then allowing the Congress party space? Because there are beneficiaries for these schemes in Karnataka, there are beneficiaries of this scheme in Madhya Pradesh, less so, but equally then in Rajasthan. So when so many homes and hearts are being touched in all these states, why is the Congress still getting votes at the state level?
See, we cannot discount the fact that Congress has not done anything. Congress has also worked hard to win in Karnataka, and going by the recent track record. We have to also understand that the ground level politics is very different.
I think it was my turn to answer.
Sorry, who's, ma'am? Allow me to conduct the debate, ma'am, if you'll allow me. Yeah, Shekhar, go ahead.
Yeah, so Rishabh, so I think the moot point here is, if all the parties are winning, it's always good, and I think it's a mantra for a vibrant democracy. Now, if Congress has won in Karnataka, it's because they understood the ground level politics very well. Whether we like it or not, they won it, and they'll win in other states too.
So Shekhar, is it a better strategy? What you've just heard, in fact, from the Congress spokesperson herself, that listen, we want to talk about the welfare issues, because the last time around when they were Chaukidar, Chor hai, Rafael, that didn't work. You couldn't make it stick. Even the BJP tried it. They tried it with the Aam Aadmi Party, on all the corruption scams. And when it came to the municipal polls, it didn't stick. Nobody was thoroughly convinced that Kejriwal is a looter. They still voted for him in the municipal polls. So is the welfareism, therefore, the right gambit, and does Modi have an advantage there, or does Congress have enough?
No, I think, Rishabh, more than the welfare, I think there was a churn in leadership. Even it happened in Karnataka in terms of BJP. As in, nobody was very clear who the leader was, and there's a reason why BJP lost. At the end of the day, I think the ground level politics, they took a leaf out of the BJP's books itself. Like, BJP's Karyakartas are very strong, but here, the Congress really worked on it and made it happen. And I think we should be fair and square about it. If they won, they won. But I think the bigger gamut is you should not discount the Modi factor. Modi has a connect with the common man.
I agree. It's a completely different factor. And when Modi surprises you on the upside, when it comes to people voting for him directly to be Prime Minister or not, it's a completely different gambit. In the scheme of politics, when you've done so many schemes, when you've done so many things, but the voter percentage is so important, where just 4-5% of the votes make such a difference in seat numbers. In the last 5 months, that is now left of the government of the center, there are no major elections between now and then. Is there any X factor that is still remaining, pending to be done, or do we see Ram Mandir and the momentum then building good enough?
See, Ram Mandir is done and dusted. I think it's no more a poll issue. People are just expecting it to reopen on 22nd of January. I am using the word reopen. Please make it. It was always there, and therefore, And the other important thing which a BJP can kickstart is to give more, tickets to the women, because they are the ones who brought the women reservation bill. It will be implemented in due course of time, but they have always been giving more tickets to the women. But they must start setting an example and take the lead in this case, so that others also follow. That's the only way women empowerment will take place. And the women empowerment has already started through various schemes where the beneficiaries are 60 to 70% are women. So if these two things are combined, and given the trend, how the state assemblies and the Lok Sabha elections,
that doesn't change my question. So despite all of this, so there is a lesson to be learned that the Congress is learning. They are applying it. In Himachal, we were talking to the voters. They particularly pointed out that the Congress got it right, that a large percentage of those people living there are employed in government service or have somebody employed in government service. Yes. So when it came to government pensions, government salaries, that was a very important manifesto promise that probably made the 1 or 2% difference that formulated the government. So in the watching and learning in these welfare schemes, is the themology, do we expect that the Congress party is going to focus on that, as you've just heard, or do we expect the Rafael and the Chaukidar Chor Hai, which didn't work in the past?
See, there is no scam as such. It was their fiction, and the Supreme Court appropriately, replied them. They in fact had to go for unconditional apology. Sashtang late ke jisko kehte hain. So those things are not going to work. You have to have an alternative policy and vision which is better than that of BJP, which they don't have.
Is corruption still an issue?
Corruption is not at all an issue. Not at all in the issue in the minds of people.
What happened to all the corruption charges, against 2G, CWG,
See, let me tell
nothing
you,
happened to them.
2G is something where the Prime Minister himself, the then Prime Minister himself, admitted that there was corruption. It was there in the newspapers, everything. However, there were some issues in this in the trial court where I was very intrigued and surprised why a particular section was not invoked, where the trial court mentioned that particular thing, which is still intriguing me as to why it was not done.
But the bottom line is we've only seen 2 people convicted of corruption and nothing changes, even though political corruption investigations happen all the time. So let me get Lavanya ji. Lavanya ji, so what is the contest then? If this chapter is closed today and the results come out, and we'll have plenty of time to dissect them before the next election. But what is the context? Is it still an ideological war for 2024? Is it a leadership war? Is it a party war? Or is it a war, as you mentioned, about welfareism?
It is about welfare and it is about ideology. It is about going back to the foundation on which the nation was built. I think that's very important for the nation to remember. So for us, it is an ideological battle, as well as, of course, there are a lot of, I disagree with the previous speaker. There are multiple scams that have happened in India. It will be an election issue.
Okay.
But the high point for us is the entire cadre is very happy that we have learned. We are learning, and it's been a great learning curve for us.
Okay, so is it still a mathematical alliance that you are hoping for in 2024, which is what this India alliance is supposed to be about, that it adds up to a victory, with the Congress, of course, being the leading and principal constituent part? Or if you do well in these elections, that perhaps is tempting for you that you guys need to go for it, because every time the Congress has become the number 3 party in a state, it has never recovered.
It has recovered. It is recovering. But, it's not just about numbers. The India Alliance is about ideological fight against the ideology propagated by the BJP. So, yes, it is an alliance and it will not break. At least we are very clear in the Congress about our steps forward with the alliance.
Okay, so it didn't last time. I remember the last time, the last Congress government in Karnataka being sworn in, that didn't last very long. But everybody showed up, and then it didn't pan out well for the Lok Sabha election. So who knows? There are inconsistencies there. Let me get Vinita Hariharan back into this. Vinita ji, there's still 5 months. Now, in that 5 months, what is the learning that can be applied? What more can you do differently that you have not already done in the past 9.5 years?
So like I said, it's a cumulative outcome of whatever we've done in the last 9 years, and we're going to consolidate that on the ground now and extend our outreach measures to the last mile. And that is what is going to be our strategy now. We're going to be working closely in the mandals and the booths and spread the message across as to what the country has achieved in the last 10 years. And to also, I would also like to take on about the freebie and the welfare economy aspect, because it's very important to understand that, the last, before 2014, for the last so many years, the Congress actually indebted the people with freebies and it kind of bought their vote bank and kept them indebted forever. Whereas the BJP strategy is to empower the people. We are going from targeted subsidies to empowerment. We are going from welfare to market, because that's where the future lies in India. Because we have to empower our people. We cannot constantly, subsidize them and give them freebies constantly throughout the entire, to the end of the life itself. We have to empower them to function on their own, which is what we're doing through the soft loans. We're empowering the MSMEs to function on their own. We helped them during COVID when they had a working capital crunch. We gave them the soft loans. We gave them the emergency credit lines. We work on the, the modern method of economics. I would urge the Congress to come away from the black and white era and look at how the world is going and how the globe is progressing and how well acclaimed the strategy has been across the globe.
It'll be exciting if there are two progressive models for people to choose within. But a state election, ladies and gentlemen, in 5 states is just concluded. Telangana was the last to vote today. It's done. The exit poll numbers are on your screens. They are far more consistent this time around than they've been in the past, at least in my experience. They are indicating close contests. We don't know how they go. The surprise factor seems to be in Telangana. The BJP and the Congress are both going to have takeaways from this. But the interesting question lies, is this actually what we think of it as 2024 semi-final build-up, 5 major states? Or like last time around in 2018, what happened in these elections in which the Congress had done really well in 2018? They won 3. It doesn't really matter that 2024 is a separate context. Well, you get to decide very shortly.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.